Hi, this video is going to show you all about Google Forms as well as using a quiz as an assignment inside of Google Classroom. So I'm already signed into Google Classroom. I'm going to click on my class card to enter. I'm going to click on the classwork section and we can see that I already have an assignment here saved as a draft, and this happens to be a quiz as an assignment. But let's see how we can get started here. So I'm going to click on the create button and then I'm going to choose quiz as assignment. So then you're popped into the assignment window and you can see it looks the exact same as any other assignment window for Google Classroom, where you have to complete the information, the title, the instructions for the students, who you want to send the assignment to, how you want to grade it, the due date, and a topic if you choose. But one of the nice things here is that Google has attached a blank Google form to this assignment that you can then click on to fill out. So let's go ahead and click on it. And you can see we are popped into a blank Google form. Okay, now that we're in our blank Google form, let's take a look at some of the options that we have in here. Here's where we would need to fill in the title. You would have to do that twice. Here's where you can put a description to the students, instructions for completing the form, or what you want them to do before or after completing the form. Here's our question card. This is where we begin to write out different types of questions that we want to present to the students. Over here on our right hand side is our form menu. The plus button is to create a new question. This button allows us to bring or use questions from a previously made Google form. This allows us to create a title, such as this up here. This allows us to bring in some media or some content for the students that we want them to look at. This is a photo or a picture, and this is a video. So you can search up YouTube videos or bring in videos from a URL. And this is a section. Possibly you want to split your form up into certain sections and you don't want students to see the second section before doing the first section. This is where you would add a section. So it's kind of like creating multiple pages inside of a Google form. Okay, so what else do we have here? We have our questions tab up at the top. This is where we, as I said, edit and create the questions. And then after we have done making the Google form and we have assigned it to students in Google Classroom, and then as they begin filling it out and they submit it back to you, this is the section where you will see their responses and where you would provide feedback. So I'm going to click on it, but we won't have anything in there because we haven't assigned this out yet to any students. But this is where we would see the responses for the students. Now, after you've completed a quiz, there's a couple different settings that you need to choose from. So we're going to go up to the settings button up in the top right, click on it, and we can see that we have the option to collect email addresses from those filling it out. We can see that we can restrict it to only people filling it out who have an RCDSB username and password. We can see that we want to limit it to one response per student. This section here, by default, after students submit it, they can't go back in and edit it. If we choose to do so, we can have them go back in and edit their responses after they submit it. We'll click on the Quizzes tab, and this is the option where by default, because we've done it through Google Classroom, we've already made it as a quiz. For our distance learning, we do not want to turn on locked mode for students, so we're going to leave that option blank. But as we scroll down, we can see that students have the option, if we're doing a quiz type where Google is marking the quiz for the students, we can give them their grade immediately after they submit it. And then we have a couple different other things that students have the ability to see: how much each question is worth, the correct answers after they answer a question, as well as if they've missed any questions. Any settings you change in here, you must click Save. Okay, so now that we've taken a look at the different types of options and menu items inside of the form editor, let's take a look at some of the different types of questions that we can ask to students. So the different types of questions that we can ask to students is a short answer or paragraph type of question. So this will allow our students to type some text. Then we have multiple choice, checkbox, or drop-down. Multiple choice allows you to create a question where students have different options to choose from, but they can only choose one of those options. Checkbox, again, students have multiple options to choose from, but they could choose multiple options as their response or as their answer. Drop-down is very similar to checkbox in that students have more than one option to choose from, but they can only choose one. If you have a long list of options, this condenses it into one little drop-down box, just like it is done here. File upload is a neat little feature. What it allows you to do is it allows you to create a question where students can upload a file. This could be any of our Google Apps for Education files, or it might be a video or audio file. A linear scale type question is one where students have the choice to respond to a question on a scale from 1 to 10 or 1 to a number of your choosing. And a grid type questions are where students have the choice to respond to various questions within one type of question card. And then we can ask students to respond to a question by stating either a date or a time. So let's take a look at what some of these questions look like. So I'm now in the student view, and here's where we'll be able to see exactly what those questions look like. So this is our scale type question where we are asking the students to choose between on a scale of 1 to 5. This is our matrix type question where we have the titles of our rows and the titles of our columns. So we've made it so students have to answer each question in each row. This is a checkbox type question. So students are given the choice where they can choose multiple options. This is a short answer type question where we can enter in text. Now we can see there's a next button. That's because I've added a section. Here I've added an image as content. Here's a video that has been added for students to watch. This is a multiple choice type question where students must choose only one response. And now we can see we're getting into the graded section of our Google form. Again, checkbox. Students can choose more than one option. This is a drop-down where the options are condensed. Here's the Add a File button, so students are able to choose from Google Drive or their computer a file to upload. And finally, we have a date type question where students must enter a date. After they've finished, they would click Submit. So now I want to talk a little bit more about using the quiz type feature inside of the Google form so that we choose the correct response and Google will mark the students' responses. So I'm back on the teacher side of things here. I'm in the questions section and I'm in the editor. There's our photo as content, our video as content. But now we can see that there is a green check mark here beside Jory John. That's because when we choose to create an assignment as a quiz, we have the option to add an answer key. So when we click on it, we can choose which response is the correct response. We can choose how much to mark it out of, and then we click Done. So I'll do the same thing down for this question. I'll click Answer Key. There's 3 correct responses for this question, and I'll mark it out of 3. Scroll down. This one has 1 correct response. It's marked out of 1. And these questions do not have an answer key, so they're not marked. Let's see what the student sees. Photo as content, video to watch, but now we can see it's at a 1 point. The student would go through and they would select their responses, and then they would click Submit when they're finished. Finally, let's take a look at how we can give feedback to students and how we can see their responses to the form. So I have one student that has turned in the Google form. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the form. And then I'm going to click on the little editing button over here on the right hand side. And when I do that, I can see that I now have one response up at the top. When I click on it, I can see that I have a summary. I can list it out by questions, or I can go to individual. So I'm going to click on individual here. And this would be a drop down of the students that have submitted it, but because only one has submitted it, it's the only one showing right now. So we can see that the student overall got 5 out of 5. These first couple questions were opinion type questions, so they weren't graded. The score was left 0. But Google knew that it was out of 5. So I'll scroll down. We can see how they responded though in here. Now we're getting into the quiz part of the Google form I assigned as the assignment. They had to watch the video and they had to answer the questions. So the student got this question correct. Here's where we leave individual feedback. Save. Again, we can leave individual feedback. It's nice how we could leave a video or a link as well. And I'm going to scroll down again. Student got 1 out of 1. We can see that they've uploaded this photo that we could just click on to watch if we chose. And here was the date that they submitted. Again, these two were not out of any score. But once we are finished, then what we can do is we can scroll up to the top and we can release the score. So this would give an email to all the students. But because it's just this one student, I'm going to choose just the one and send the email and release. So I hope this video showed you how you can create Google Form and a quiz type of assignment inside of Google Classroom. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to one of our TELT Cs, TELT C list at rcdsb.on.ca.